I've got an Onkyo TX-SR607 and the front panel display is blank. Now, first thing you should be aware of with Onkyo units is the microprocessor will actually turn off the display if you put it into pure audio mode, which is usually indicated by a blue LED on the front panel. So this one, putting it in and out of pure audio mode made no difference, and just so I knew where I was starting from, I did a factory reset on the unit just to kind of clear out any nonsense that the microprocessor might have got itself confused by. So that made no difference. So looking at the circuit diagram, the display is this long rectangular thing across the top, and it's driven by this chip, which I couldn't find any data for on the internet, so I had to just sort of work it out from what the circuit diagram was. And an obvious thing to start is there's 3.9 volts that power the thing, and that 3.9 volts is coming off this bit of circuitry here, Q7033. And what basically you've got 5 volts going into this transistor, and the transistor's got this 3.9 volt Zener diode on it. Now, I'm not sure this 3.9 volts is really correct, because you've got a 3.9 volt Zener, then you're going to lose 0.6 of a volt through this transistor. So I think this 3.9 should actually be 3.3. Now, and on 2 units I've measured it as 3.5, so I suspect this isn't 3.9. I think that's incorrect. So the source of this, now I actually measured a source voltage here, but I think it might have been coming from somewhere not the proper source, because the source, if I go back along here, the source of that comes from something called 5V dis, and 5V dis comes off of this little bit of circuitry here. I'll show you. So basically it's another transistor with another Zener turning it to making it act like a small regulator. And so we've got 5 volt 5V dis is on there, so I'm guessing 5V dis means 5 volt display. So we go back to here. What we've actually got on here is a 36 volt Zener. Now the reason we're getting 5 volts out of here is because this is actually running. If we backtrack to the source of all this circuitry, we go to these signals called Sec3-1 and Sec3-2, which in Onkyo circuit diagrams means the Sec is usually referencing the secondary winding of the mains transformer. So we've got a secondary 3.1 and a secondary 3.2, and of this S3 winding. Annoyingly, Onkyo don't give voltages for their transformers, so you have to assume that what you're getting out of it is what it should be. And on here I read 39 volts AC, and I've got a feeling this upper winding here, this FLAC 1 and 2, have also got something to do with display. So if R950 with this particular model as open circuit, I mean, that might stop your display working as well. And I think I was getting about 5 volts AC across this winding. So going back to here, so basically we're feeding AC into this block of circuitry. We're going through this resistor, through this diode, which is acting as a half-wave rectifier, and then that pulsed DC from the output of that diode has been smoothed off by C9001. And what I found with this unit was R9010 had actually gone open circuit. So there's a little table here you should be aware of. For the SR607 receiver, it should be a 2.2 ohm half watt resistor, and if it's an SR507 receiver, so I'm guessing the circuitry is the same, it's an 82 ohm half watt resistor. While 2.2 is quite low, don't be tempted to replace it with a piece of wire, because I'm guessing this sort of design that it's a bit of a current limit, and if there's a short circuit through all this lot, that resistor will just go open circuit like it did, without doing a lot more damage to something else. The 5 volts I think coming out here is relative to ground, but bearing in mind we've got this, because it's coming off this winding that isn't really connected, referenced directly, obviously, it probably is somewhere, to the ground of the unit. You've got this minus VP which is a high minus voltage. And the fact we got a 36 volt Zener here suggests that, well, we've got 5 volts there. This might be about minus 30 across there. So if you measure the voltage across C9006, you're probably going to get 35 volts ish, because those vacuum fluorescent displays need quite a high voltage to kick them into life. That was it really. This was relatively straightforward once I've worked out where this was. This board is underneath, I might have said this, but it's directly underneath the HDMI board, and you can get to these parts fairly easily without having to take the board out. They're on the top surface of the board. So if you've got a 607 or a 507 receiver that has got a blank display, hopefully this video will steer you in the right direction as to how to fix it. Thank you for watching.